Hi everyone, I'm Naomi and I work for the Institute of Urban Ecology at Douglas College. Now, that's kind of a funny job title. What does urban ecology mean? Well, the word urban means a place where people live, just like here where you live. And the word ecology is a type of science and it studies the interactions between all the living and non-living things in an area. So my job is really special because I get to come and work with students just like you and raise awareness about the nature in our cities. And in British Columbia here, we're really lucky because we get to share our urban ecosystems with a lot of other living things just like these. Now, I want you to think about all the animals there are on Earth, not just the ones in our urban ecosystem, but all the animals on Earth, and pick your favorite one. Maybe your favorite is a tiger like mine, or a dolphin because they're really, really smart, or a cat or a dog because they make great pets. Now those are all great examples of animals that we call vertebrates. Vertebrates are animals that have bones and backbones just like you and I have. Can you think of any other vertebrate animals? Believe it or not, there are also some animals on Earth that don't have any bones. Things like sea stars don't have bones, and octopuses or slugs or beetles. And we call these types of animals invertebrates. Can you think of any other invertebrate animals? Now I want you to think about all the animals on Earth again, all of the vertebrates and all the invertebrates. And I want you to try and guess which one you think there are more of. So raise your hand if you think that most of the animals on Earth are vertebrates. Now raise your hand if you think maybe most of the animals on Earth are invertebrates. And last, raise your hand if you think maybe it's about equal. It's about half vertebrates and half invertebrates. Well, believe it or not, 97% of all the animals on Earth are invertebrates. That means only 3% of all the animals on Earth have bones like you and I. And that is true because of all the different types of insects. Scientists believe that there are about 14 million different invertebrates just on land alone. There's even more underwater, and there's new ones being discovered every day. They may be small, but they are mighty, and possibly one of the most overlooked species in our urban ecosystems are the insects. And without them, our urban ecosystems would be in a lot of trouble. Why are insects so important? Well, bees, for example, are really important pollinators, and without them, we wouldn't have a lot of our fruits and vegetables to eat. Insects are also really important decomposers, meaning they clean up dead plants and dead animals, even other animals' poop. And insects make up a really important part of the food chain. A food chain works like this. At the bottom, you always start with plants. Then you have animals that eat those plants. We call them herbivores. You also have animals that eat other animals, like these ground beetles, and we call those predators. Now, if you have a garden at home where you're trying to grow some pretty flowers or fresh fruits or vegetables, sometimes these herbivores can become a pest. They can damage your plants, they could even kill them or ruin your fresh fruits and vegetables. The good news is, nature has a way of keeping the food chain in balance. Predators, like these ground beetles, help protect your plants from pests. We call this interaction biological control, meaning nature is controlling the pests naturally. Let's look at an example. This is the fiery searcher beetle, and it really likes to eat gypsy moth caterpillars. Now, the gypsy moth is an introduced species from Europe. Now, introduced species means that this is an animal that doesn't naturally occur here in British Columbia. It was brought over and introduced by people. Sometimes they're introduced on purpose, and sometimes they're introduced by accident. But how do you think that gypsy moth got all the way from Europe all the way over here to British Columbia? Did it fly all the way across the ocean? No, that's way too far for a moth to fly. The gypsy moth probably got carried over accidentally on a plane or a boat that was bringing over other supplies for people, because these boats and planes are really, really big, and things like moths and caterpillars are really, really small and hard to see if they're hiding on a ship. Now, the problem with the gypsy moth is that their caterpillars are really, really, really hungry caterpillars, and they can eat all the leaves off a tree in just a couple of days. And it's become a really big problem in Canada and the United States. And now when an introduced species becomes a problem like that, we call them an invasive species. So remember that fiery searcher beetle I mentioned? Well, they are excellent predators of the gypsy moth caterpillar, and therefore excellent at helping protect the tree's leaves. A great example of how a biological control works. Now your class is going to help the Institute of Urban Ecology track the spread of a newly introduced beetle species from Europe. 2 years ago, while Dr. McGregor was working on another ground beetle study, he captured a beetle that hasn't been seen in British Columbia before. By doing his research online, Dr. McGregor discovered that that new beetle was called Nebria brevicollis, and it originally came from Europe, but was accidentally introduced to Portland, Oregon. Now the beetle has found its way up to Coquitlam, BC, and may be hiding in your urban ecosystems too. As part of our Beetle Watch 2020 team, you are now going to be the scientists and help us look for Nebria. I can't do it. I'm stuck here in your computer screen. So to help us, you are going to set up pitfall traps around your school or home. Then once a week, you're going to check your traps and see if you have caught any Nebria beetles. Here is the Institute of Urban Ecology's head scientist, Dr. McGregor, to show you how a pitfall trap works.
So pitfall traps at Institute of Urban Ecology, this is how we make them. It's very simple. You can make these at home yourself. We just get 2 plastic beverage cups like this. One's to hold the hole in place after you dig the hole, and the other one is the trap that you put in for insects like beetles to fall into, and then you can take the first piece out and without disturbing the hole you've made in the ground. And what we do is we screen the bottoms. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little piece of screening on the first cup, and on the second cup there's a hole, and these both allow water to drain through the trap if it happens to be really raining. If you're doing this and it's not raining, you don't need this. You can actually just put a single cup into the ground, and that works fine as well if you want to try doing this kind of trapping on your own. So we're going to show you how to install one of these traps right now, and we'll just go over this way. Okay, so we're going to install our pitfall trap now in a hole. I've already dug the hole just to make it a little bit easier here, but you dig a hole such that the trap goes into the hole and the top of the trap is just at the top of the surface of the soil. If it's not quite right and it's sticking up a bit, you can pack the soil a little bit around it. And you don't have to do this, but what we do when we install our traps for our projects is we take a styrofoam plate like this and we cover the trap and put wooden skewers into the ground just to protect it from rain a little bit. You don't want that to be covering the top of the trap, of course, but an inch or so off of the ground. And then in the evening, these beetles that forage at night will walk around and they'll fall into the trap and they'll be captured because apparently their feet don't work so well on plastic cups, so they're trapped. We don't use a killing fluid in our traps, we just do them live, and then we can identify and count them and release them on site without killing any beetles, okay?
So the key here is to make sure that your traps are level with the ground. If the top of your trap is sticking up even just a little bit, the beetles won't fall in and you won't catch anything. So now might be a great time to go out and set your traps. And then you can come back, maybe right before you go check your traps in a couple of days. I'll show you how we check our traps at IUE, and how to identify Nebria brevicollis. So good luck, scientists. Welcome back, everyone. Are you excited to see what you catch? I sure am. Now again, checking your traps is just as simple as setting them up, but telling the difference between Nebria and other beetles is the tricky part. Even I have a hard time still. But we are the Beetle Watch team after all, and so myself, Dr. McGregor, and our trained student assistants are here to help you. So if you think that you have found Nebria in your trap, we want you to send us a picture of it. Now try to get as close up and as clear a picture as possible, and then your teacher will let you know how to send those photos to us. And now depending on the materials that you have available, you might do things a little bit differently, but here's how we check our beetle traps at the Institute of Urban Ecology. I just wanted to show you how we go checking our beetle traps at our Seoul garden. And so here you can see I have one of our traps here in one of our garden beds. It has the styrofoam lid on top to help protect it from the rain, as well as a little card on there sort of explaining to people what is happening. So if someone's walking around and happens to stumble upon one of your beetle traps, they know that it's more than simply a piece of litter on the ground, that it is being used for our scientific research program. And so I'm going to go ahead now and remove that lid and see what we have hiding in this trap. So you can see my pitfall trap down here, the red plastic beverage cup, and I can already see some beetles crawling around in there. But to help me identify them and get a closer look, I have a plastic tray just like this that I'm going to empty the contents of the cup into. And now again, these ground beetles, their feet don't have the same kind of traction that like a spider or a housefly has, and so they aren't actually able to climb up the slippery walls of this plastic tray. And so it's just an easy way to keep the beetles contained, but also get a closer look and see which species you have in your trap. And so it's as easy as lifting out the cup, and now we've used the double cup system in our garden here as well. So when I pull this cup out, we have the second cup down there kind of holding the place of where our trap was. It just makes things a little bit easier. And so here, I don't know if you can see what's crawling around in there, but we're just going to tip it over into our white tray like so. And then there they are. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ground beetles off the top of my head here. And then upon closer inspection, I should be able to identify which species these are. And we'll go over that in another video, how to identify the different species of beetles. But what you want to do when you get yours like this is take a look and see if you find anything that you suspect might be Nebria brevicollis. Remember, it's that Nebria species that we are really interested in here in our Beetle Watch 2020 program. But if you're unsure, play it safe, snap a photo, upload it to our Facebook group, and we will happily help you identify what it is you found in your beetle traps. So again, Nebria does look very similar to a lot of other beetles that you might catch. So do the best that you can. You should have some photos and information from us to help you identify what it is you find. And again, take a picture if you think it's Nebria, and then your teachers will let you know how to send those photos to us. So we know that Nebria is an introduced species from Europe, and with your help, we will soon know how far it's spread. What we don't know yet is if Nebria will become an invasive species. Do you remember the difference between an introduced and an invasive species? What do you think? Do you think nebria would become a problem? What could possibly happen? You are the scientists now, and so maybe if your class likes, you can come up with some more questions that you have about nebria and even design your own experiments. Whatever you decide to do next, the Institute of Urban Ecology wants to thank you for joining our Beetle Watch 2020 team. You are now real citizen scientists, and the data that you collect might just help protect our urban ecosystems from another invasive species. So thank you again, and we're looking forward to finding out if there's any nebria hiding in your urban ecosystem. Good luck, team.